Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Majority Leader Schumer and Speaker Pelosi for bringing us together this morning. It's an honor to join both of you and to be with my outstanding colleagues. I do want to say a special thank you to Speaker Pelosi, who has been very publicly standing with the AAPI community from the very beginning when we started to see the increases of these types of incidents across the country. And Senator Schumer, my home state senator, is not exaggerating when he says that he's been to a few rallies to protest this kind of bigotry. He's been at every single rally I've been to, and he's probably been to more than that. So thank you for your solidarity. You all know that for more than a year, the Asian American community has been fighting two viruses, the COVID-19 pandemic and anti-Asian hate. The attacks that have been occurring against the community have been horrifying. We've heard about and seen videos of both young and elderly Asian Americans being shoved to the ground, stomped on, beaten, spat on, and shunned. These heinous acts have been outrageous, unconscionable, and they must end. There have been assaults all across the nation, including in my home district of Queens, New York. To help combat this bigotry and violence, I introduced legislation with Senator Hirono that would, amongst other things, create a position at the Department of Justice to facilitate expedited review of COVID-19 hate crimes, encourage more reporting of incidents in multiple languages, and help make different communities feel more empowered to come forward and report these incidents. Oftentimes we tell people to just report if something happens to them, but it's not always so easy to do so. People might not know where the police precinct is, people might have language obstacles, and we also need more resources for our local entities to be able to figure out how to most effectively investigate these types of incidents. As Speaker Pelosi said, oftentimes the lingo and the tropes that are being used might not be something that is already familiar to our law enforcement personnel. This bill also directs federal agencies to work with community-based organizations to find ways to talk about the COVID-19 pandemic in a way that is not discriminatory. I'm thrilled that our legislation is moving forward, and I'm hopeful that the measure will be approved by the Senate and the House. Over the past year, I've met with so many Asian American community members whose lives have been threatened or whose loved ones have been attacked. And this bill takes into account what I've heard from the community. People need to feel empowered to come forward and report these incidents. We need to make that process easier and more accessible. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit Atlanta, Georgia with our KPAC chairwoman, Judy Chu, and also Rep. Kim, who is here today, where we met with the families of the victims and that were killed in the mass shooting. They all agreed in the midst of their pain and sorrow that we need action now. Over 3,800 cases of attacks have been reported over the past year, but we all know that the number of incidents is likely higher. Most of us know people who've had these incidents happen to them on different levels and yet have not reported them. So increased reporting of hate crimes would give us more accurate data. It would give a clearer and fuller picture of the attacks that have been occurring so we know what resources specifically are needed. Combating hate should not be a partisan issue. This is about the safety of all Americans. It's about people's lives and their right to be safe. It's about our parents and grandparents walking down the street safely. It's about our kids being able to go to school and play outside without fearing that they'll be harassed. We must all, as Democrats and Republicans, stand together against this racism and violence and say enough is enough. We must demonstrate that we all have the Asian American community's back and underscore that an attack on the Asian American community is an attack on all of us. We have to rise up and show solidarity against this intolerance. We have to take action to combat this xenophobia and violence, and supporting this bill would greatly help us achieve all these critical goals. Once again, I can't thank enough Leader Schumer, Speaker Pelosi, and my colleagues for supporting this legislation and standing with the Asian American community. And I also want to thank President Biden for endorsing this bill and calling on Congress to pass it. Let's do everything in our power to fight this racism and violence that has plagued our community. Thank you so much. Next, I want to introduce Representative Andy Kim, who has been a tremendous voice in humanizing so many of these incidents that have been happening across the country.